Ready.
Hi guys, welcome to Quiet Time Out Loud. We're excited to be here with you, and as you can see, we have something new and exciting coming up.
We told you we were trying to work on our sound.
Yes, we bought new microphones that we're really excited about because we are in preparation for season 2
Yay.
that we're going to start next week, and we have some really just fun changes.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little more relaxed, but
Yeah.
we're also going to dig a lot deeper.
Yeah.
And we're also going to turn the comments on.
On YouTube.
Yes, on
Because we've
YouTube.
had them on Instagram,
Yeah,
but like on
comments.
YouTube.
Yeah, on YouTube. Yeah, the Lord actually dealt with both of our hearts on that.
Yeah.
So, but I think it was good, like to get through the first season and kind of just get our feet
Yeah.
wet and get where we needed to be like, you know what, we're doing this because we were called to do it, and we want people to comment. We want, and then a lot of ministering happens. What you were talking about with your friend said that a lot of ministering happens within the comments. Right. So we don't want to take away that opportunity.
Right, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't so much of like lack of confidence or lack of being able to like, I hate to use the expression like defend ourselves,
Right.
but it was more so just we didn't really know what to expect. We didn't even know like
what
how
we were doing.
anything. Like we're just winging it. So I feel like now we've definitely become more comfortable with all of it.
Yeah.
And so it'd be a good thing to do.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
And we have have a new set next week too.
Yeah.
There changes to the set.
Yeah.
And we have a guest coming up, like not next week, but the week after. That's going to be just amazing. So he's going to touch on some really, really sensitive things that that we all need to hear about.
Yeah.
Though. I feel like we really need to be more out loud about it.
I agree. I think it'll be really good.
Yeah, me too. I think it's going to set a lot of people free and just anyway. So this season, I think or not this season. Today we wanted to kind of recap season 1 and maybe talk about some things that we talked about, but we also were on the same page this morning again. I texted Megan this morning about something that I'd seen in Psalms. Or was it Psalms?
Yeah. Well,
it was Psalms.
Psalm.
Oh, no,
It was a psalm. Because I have it written.
Okay.
It was delight yourself in the Lord, right?
Yeah, but I sent you.
Oh,
Anyway,
I can use my phone now.
Oh, yeah, you can use your phone. So I sent her something this morning. I think it was either Proverbs or Psalms. It doesn't really. I mean, it's a Bible, so. But
it's in there. Proverbs.
Yeah, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm on the same place." So we do feel like we need to touch on that.
Oh, it was Proverbs.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, but it talked about Psalms and
oh, okay, that's why I got confused. So yours was Proverbs 11:23.
But it has to do with what that song is.
I'm gonna write that on here on my notes because
So
I'll have to look up what.
So I guess we can go ahead. Do you want to get started? Would you want to start with this, and then we can go into recapping? Or I mean, I just feel like everything always comes back together.
It really does. Yeah.
So,
I'm good. I mean, I feel like we're already going this direction. So let's just keep going.
Okay.
So I'm gonna look up which delight this is in the verse that you sent me real quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what the verse I sent her this morning was Proverbs 11:23. Because at church this past week our pastor was touching on talking about just the wisdom of God and like what it brings, and just all the benefits of just flowing and in that wisdom and hearing from Him. And so I was reading in Proverbs, and in verse 23 it says, "The desire of the righteous is only good, but the expectation of the wicked is wrath." And then you go into other translations and it talks about like the desire of the righteous only comes out as good. Like there's only a good result from the desire of the righteous. And I was like, wow, that's kind of a big statement.
That is a big statement.
It's only good. You think about all the things that aren't good, even from those who are believers, whenever like our in our lives, like things that don't turn out like great, and I'm like, wait a second, like this is saying it's only good. And I know that things turn out always good for the good of those who love Him. And back to that verse, when things aren't working out, and maybe not even supposed to go, even if they go the way they're not necessarily supposed to go, because God desires good things for us, He will always turn it back to good, and that just kind of backs that up in the New Testament. Like He always works out good for those who love Him.
I think it's cool too that it uses the words desire that brings out the good, and its expectation of the wicked brings out wrath.
Right.
So those two different, I mean, it didn't say just the desire of the good and desire of the righteous and desire of the wicked.
Right.
Like there's a difference in desire versus expectation.
Right. And I feel like 'cause desire is like your heart.
Yeah.
Expectation is just like
It's more like a
I'm
carnal
hoping. Yeah,
way of
yeah,
thinking.
yeah. like I'm hoping this is gonna happen. Like a desire is like born in you, like it's deep within you. And it's that psalm we had brought that back to was delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart.
Yeah,
And so it's like, okay, so what's in my heart?
that's right.
You know, if things around you just seem to always be falling apart, and you go back to the Word, it's like, okay, Lord, what is in my heart?
Are you delighting?
Am I delighting in Him? What? And you looked up the word delight this morning.
Yeah, I looked that up because I feel like we always have just kind of like through context, like you just kind of understand the word delight for
Yeah.
what you think it means. And I certainly felt like it was, you know, like an affection type of thing and to be pleased. And I don't know, just different. I guess I didn't even really have like
Like frolicking.
yeah, just
you know,
like, oh, it's so
Yeah,
good. You know, I don't know. But actually, this one, there's 3 different words for delight in the Hebrew that I found. 2 of them are more along those lines, like what we would expect.
right.
But this one, specifically in Psalm 37, verse 4, it means to be soft or pliable.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not really what I thought it was.
Right.
Like, not at all. And we were joking before that I said it made me think of the Turkish delights in Narnia.
yes.
And how they're like, ooh, like I've never had one.
But they look.
They look
They
like
look soft and delicate.
they do.
Yeah.
And like kind of like squishy.
Squishy.
But it also says in the concordance, this desire, it also means effeminate or luxurious or delicate.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
I also picture kind of like a rose a
Yeah.
little bit. I don't know, just to kind of get your mind like on
Right.
that.
Yeah, and then like delicate too. It reminds me of like, I don't know. I think of like a little girl and her father, like that
Yeah.
relationship, like the way she's just like so sweet with her dad,
Mhm.
and
And,
she
like,
just
just kinda
she
cuddles
just
up.
admires him, and
Yeah.
she just I think of that too. Like you really do take delight in his
Yeah.
presence, and anyway, that's what I think of. But the pliable thing,
Yeah.
that really spoke to me whenever you said that, because
Mm-hmm.
it is true. Like whenever we come to him
Mm-hmm.
with a pliable heart,
Mm-hmm.
and we delight in him with that pliable heart, then it makes sense that the desires
Yeah.
of our heart would come to pass.
Yeah.
Because we're soft toward him,
Right.
and we can hear him,
That's right.
and then we are led by him. We are obedient to that,
Mhm.
whatever he's calling us to,
Mhm.
and whoever he's calling us to call, or wherever he's calling us to go, where the desire of our heart would be.
Right.
Yeah.
It really does paint like a really beautiful picture and points back to that word gentle too. I
Yes.
feel like
Yeah.
it's all tied in. It almost reminds me though of this time, gosh, probably like 3 years ago in church during praise and worship. I might have shared this on here before. I don't really know, but I feel like it's fitting.
Yeah.
Ellis was probably 5, so he was still small, but he was also heavy. And it was a family night, and the kids were in worship with us, and he wanted to be held. And I just picked him up, and I was singing, and he was like, when your kids are like kind of moving around, like it throws your
Yes.
balance
Yeah.
off, like you could feel that. And I could feel that moment where he just kind of like relaxed onto me.
Right.
And it felt like we were like one.
Right.
And I felt like he was like soft and pliable in that moment.
Yes.
And the thing about that was like, the Lord told me, like, this is how you bless me when you enter in
Yes.
with me, and you just like,
There's no more resistance.
it's just you're
Yeah.
totally like relaxed
Yeah.
in his presence, and you're just like in the arms of your Father,
Right.
And I remember feeling like so blessed by Ellis in that moment,
Right.
like just holding him, even as he's gotten bigger, like just to know he was so relaxed on me
Right.
blessed me so much. And the Lord was like, this is how I feel when you come to me in this way.
Yes.
And I was just much more open to receive,
Right.
like with that sense, not even like a feeling, just that sense of that emotion.
Right.
It was just so beautiful, and I picture that.
Yeah, and it's like whenever the way you're describing that, I'm picturing like, the resistance is gone. Like there's
Yeah.
no more like, trying to get comfortable. Like there's a full on trust
And a oneness.
that happens. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever you completely just let go.
It's true.
And that reminds me of in Proverbs as well, the one that we're all familiar with, Proverbs 3:5-6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your understanding, and all your ways acknowledge him, and he will direct your paths.
Yeah.
And just the benefit that comes from that, I mean, it says it'll be health to your flesh and strength to your bones. Just all this wisdom
Yeah.
that's in this book. Like, it talks about righteousness a lot, like the way the righteous live and like what they can expect from life. And it's all so good. I'm like, you know what? And I understand like that the word also talks about persecution and suffering.
Yeah.
And I've even had people say, it talks about suffering more than it does blessing. And I'm like, what Bible are you reading? Because I don't see that whenever I'm
No, I
going
don't
through the
either.
Gospels. I mean, he mentions, that you're going to have persecution, but I think we just focus on that so much,
Yeah.
and we don't rise above and be like, you know what? Like we don't ever try to take authority over things that we deem persecution because we think we're doing something that's, and we talked about that several times
Oh, yeah.
before, that's holy or honoring,
Yeah.
or glorifying him. And in some cases you do. Like if you're standing on the word and you're like, I'm not going to back off this.
Yeah.
And someone says,
It's needed sometimes.
yeah. Like there's tons of martyrs around the world that
Yeah.
they didn't back off, and they that got them killed here on earth, and then now they're in heaven. But I feel like we just need to really understand what it means to be righteous.
Yeah.
Like the power that carries. Like,
100%.
you know.
And I think that's what Paul, like, even though he suffered much, you
Yeah.
know, like, even in everything that you read that he wrote, I feel like he's just so, he still had a peace that
Oh,
surpassed understanding.
Yeah.
He still, he would delight himself in the Lord. And so even though he was facing trials and he never relented in saying how challenging that was, it didn't overtake him.
Right.
And it didn't interfere with his trust or
Right.
his peace. You know,
Yeah.
I really felt like that is that peace that passes understanding,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So, and I also think of James chapter 1 where it talks about like within understanding that even when things are hard, if like Ellis, if you're soft and pliable and your heart soft and pliable toward Jesus and whatever that looks like,
Right.
well, you know, when your kids are like moving and resisting what you want to do, it throws you off balance, you know, and that's that point of being unstable where you can't
Right.
receive. But if it's like, if you're just in that oneness and you're trusting, and even in, it's like, especially in the hard times, right?
Right.
That it will be more challenging. And,
Right.
but if you just trust him and remain soft and pliable, even in persecution,
Yeah.
you can receive and you're
Yeah.
more stable.
Right. And then he makes a way out.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many things that we stay in too long because we think
Oh,
that
yeah.
it's like, well, we don't offer, first of all, I don't think we understand our authority completely. And there's the shame and there's the condemnation that keeps us there because we're like, I don't deserve to get out of this. Like, this is what I deserve. I did this, I did that. But, as you're talking, I'm looking in Proverbs still. And I mean, it's just righteousness and the benefit of it is just so, it's everywhere in Proverbs. But this is right here. It says, the desire of the righteous will be granted.
That's so good.
I'm like,
Yeah.
it's everywhere. I don't know how anybody can ever
I
dispute
know, I
this.
totally agree. They
like,
don't see themselves as righteous.
and that's the deal. Like, the enemy, I mean, Jesus said this 2 or 3 times in John. Like, the enemy could not take him to the cross. The enemy could not defeat him. He couldn't cause him
Yeah.
to go to the cross because of his righteousness.
Yeah.
Like, there was no unrighteousness in him. So the enemy had no foothold. So that's why you see throughout the scriptures, like, he would do some amazing miracle and the crowds would or the Pharisees would be trying to murder him. And he just walked right through.
Yeah.
Or they try to be thrown off a cliff, he just walked right through.
Yeah.
Because there was no, the enemy could not get his hands on him until it was time.
Yeah.
Until it was allowed. Until he gave him,
Yeah.
the ability to be able to do that.
Yeah. That's
And one day I was sitting there reading and I was like, oh my gosh, the same spirit that was able to keep the enemy at bay, resist him and, not allow him to do, what he wanted to do is in us.
Yeah.
And the only way he ever gets away with anything is whenever we say, when we allow it.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
I think that's a hard pill for people to swallow sometimes. And I've heard even recently, I've seen different videos and things where people, I feel like there's an opposition to that way of viewing
right.
it right now. But by my experience, I have fruit in
Yeah.
when I don't doubt. I
Right.
mean, I don't even know how you could argue that because, like, literally in that passage in James 5, it talks about doubting.
Right.
Like, there's so much about doubting that says that you just can't receive if you doubt.
Well,
And
then
according
you have
to your
Jesus
faith, let it
all
be
throughout
added.
the gospel saying like, pray in my name
I
and
know.
you'll receive and believe and do not doubt and you'll see the, the glory of the Lord. Like there's
Yeah.
just, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. But I think, like, if you are like what we're talking about, if you're not delighting yourself in the Lord,
Mm-hmm.
then you don't understand that. Well, let me back up. I think a lot of people too think, I desire this, so I'll have it.
Yes,
if I'm
right.
delighting in Him.
Yes.
But that's not what it is. It's like He changes your
does
desires
change
to
your
align with
desires.
His. So if you don't understand your righteousness and how these things are available to you based on not doubting and believing, right?
Right.
And let it be according to your faith,
Right.
then there's going to be times where you're going to feel disappointment in the natural because whatever you're desiring isn't seeming to come to pass.
Right.
But really, what it is you have to make sure that those desires are aligned with God's will and
Right.
not your own.
Right.
Because this is talking about God's will. Like
Right.
your desires are God's desire. Like the
And-
other day.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Well, His will is good. Like, I
Yes,
think people
yeah.
need to understand that. Like, yes, because people be like, look, well, then it's not really what I desire. Or, if it's God's will, then, He's going to move me to some foreign country.
Oh,
or He's
yeah.
going to allow some
There's
tragedy
fear.
in my
Yeah.
life. And I'm like, but then you read about the will of God and you're like,
None of that.
none of that.
Yeah.
Like His will is good.
Right.
He delights in the prosperity of His servant is what the Old Testament
Yeah.
says. And we've been turned from servants to friends
So how
of
much
Christ. So anyway, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, suddenly over the past few weeks, I've got like this strong desire for our women's ministry at our church, and different things about it. And I was like, Lord, like, why do I even care so much?
Yeah.
Like why all of a sudden am I just like so passionate about this? And
Yeah.
I almost was like, that's weird.
Right.
But then He just told me, I have given you that desire,
Yes.
Megan. Like,
it's
so
crazy how that
that's
works.
why you're
Right.
like, and I was like, oh my gosh, Lord, like, makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it would come out of nowhere because He needs somebody to be yielded in Him
Yes.
toward Him in order to fulfill what He's trying to fulfill.
That's
So
good.
I was just like, okay, Lord, like,
Yeah.
whatever you see for me in that, like, I am glad. Like, I'm
Yeah.
gonna delight myself in
Yes.
you in this
I'm gonna
area
be
because
pliable
you.
to your word and to
That's
what you want me
right.
to do.
Because we can definitely build up a resistance, or
Yeah.
the enemy, like, I think that's what it was. I think the enemy was like, "What, you think this is your ministry?"
Yeah.
Or something? Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
Oh
and
my
I'm like,
gosh.
"No, I just love these women and
I
these
know.
people." And anyways, so
It's funny you said that because I was really toying with the idea of homeschool for my oldest for my son this year, and I was going back and forth with it. And even though I love so many aspects of homeschool, there was something that was still like my heart was still at the school we're at now. And there are other people like that were leaving that school because they're not going to have a ninth grade anymore. Like there was all this stuff going on. So I was I was getting confused. Like, well, do we need to leave this school?
Yeah.
Like, do we need to go somewhere else? What do I need to do here? And then like just the same thing. All of a sudden, like I was driving up the mountain one day, and He put this desire on my heart to get like even more involved with this school, like to
Yeah.
possibly even like try to get on the school board and like
yeah,
because we don't have representation for this campus here
Yeah.
on the school board. And so then He's just like giving me visions and what the school can be, and I'm just getting this like huge desire to see it to completely succeed, even if we aren't there in a couple of years or a year. It's for the students that are going to be there. Like it's for the future of the school. Like my desires
Yeah.
have shifted. Like yes,
Bigger
I want the
than
best for
yourself.
my kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like what can we do for the future? People who are kids who are gonna be coming through the school and families.
and that's not your flesh.
And that's
like,
not my flesh at
that
all,
is
because you knew
God.
where I was at. I was
Yeah.
like,
That's
I was ready to
confirming.
jump ship, but
Yeah.
I just was like this. Yeah, it just came on me, and I was like,
Yeah.
okay. And then there's doors opening, and the principal is like on board with things that God's put on my heart.
That's
and
so
things
good.
are just kind of congealing, and it's really cool.
same things happen with my situation.
Yeah,
So it's
and
just
so it's like that's what we're
God's
talking
like,
about. Whenever we're saying,
hello, like-
whenever we say like, He gives you the desires of your heart, like, but you have to be willing and pliable to these
Yeah.
things because it won't work out.
right.
Like, and,
That's
and,
right.
if you aren't in His Word, like, so for instance, whenever you were talking about His desires being our desires, and
Yeah.
you can't just desire whatever you want, like
Yeah.
in your flesh, and then get it. I was thinking of like the fruit of the Spirit, and specifically love. So God is love, right? And so if anything is outside of that, and it's gonna hurt or harm somebody else, or if it's gonna like take away from, it's not gonna happen.
Right.
Because like I was gonna read 1 Corinthians 13 again, which we read earlier in this season, I think 2 or 3 episodes ago. It says, love suffers long and is kind. It does not envy. It does not parade itself. It's not puffed up. Does not behave rudely. Does not seek its own. Is not provoked. Thinks no evil. Does not rejoice in iniquity, but rejoices in the truth. Bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things. It never endures all things. Love never fails. So it's got to be on that property of love, like from His love, like where you see your desires,
No, it's so true.
come to pass.
Yeah.
So if it's selfish, if it's self-seeking, it's not His desire.
Right.
And I've had several times where I've even had to be like, okay, Lord, take my motivation on this.
Oh yeah.
I'm even in prayer right now because I had a thought last night that it was totally not flesh driven. And my first thought, I was like, this is not my flesh. Like, this is totally, my heart and God's heart. But then I was like, Lord, I really want you to check me on this though, because then I
Yeah.
had another thought right after that, and it came to me. I was like, oh, you'll get recognition for this. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to move on this yet because I don't know where my heart is on this. Because it was like, I wanted to do this thing, but then I had a thought like, oh, you'll get recognition for this. And I was like, okay, where is this motivation coming from?
It's like the enemy tries to steal your motive or something,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like distract you or
Right.
distort,
Right.
your approach to things.
Right.
Because I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's like, and so I don't want to go through with it yet because I don't want my motivation in my heart to be wrong.
yeah.
But that's also comes like, He's faithful to give you the answer when you need it.
Oh, 100%.
It's like whenever, Jesus going down and writing in the sand. Like, it's like our pastor talks about, he just thinks He was just waiting
Yeah.
to hear.
Yeah.
And there's no rush.
That pause.
Yeah. I just needed to pause. And so, and until I hear, then I'm probably not going to move on it, or I'll just move forward with what I think.
And when you
My
have
heart
peace.
is saying, yeah.
Yeah.
And even if there is, again, His mercy and His grace is so great. Like, He'll still work it out.
Oh, absolutely.
But it's just
But that's
asking
good.
yourself those like
That's so good.
being so aware.
And mature. That's
Yeah.
just being mature.
Yeah.
And very self-aware.
Right.
But I think too, like to like consider all these things, like as we do this podcast, like this, I feel like is us just trying to be soft and pliable
Right.
and just be led by, in every decision, just be led, like, what is it that He wants,
Right.
like, what is it that He's trying to do here?
Right.
And I don't know, I just think as we, in every area in our lives, but especially like speaking toward this today, because we're talking about
Yeah.
some changes
Yeah.
and getting more comfortable with things, like as you delight, it's a confirmation that as your desires change and you're just like, what's that? Why am I
Yeah.
used to be so opposed to that, but all of a sudden I'm still open, like,
Yeah,
the
comments.
commenting.
I know. Like, we were both on the
Yeah.
same page about that.
Yeah.
And then just like us ramping up like our social media. And doing more videos
Yeah.
and like just getting more comfortable in front of the camera.
Right.
Especially if that's not where your place has been, public speaking and all those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And, but there is that desire there now.
Yeah.
And we do want to see this grow, and we so appreciate everybody who's followed us on this
Yeah,
journey so
for
far. But yeah, just it's kind of like what I was saying that Creflo Dollar said, like it's getting away from that need to have approval.
Yeah.
Like
Or being afraid of disapproval as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's like being I forget how, I just told you how he worded it, now I can't think of it.
I don't remember, I'm sorry.
But just like breaking away from having to be approved of.
Yeah.
Like, because he's like, I'm approved by God.
That's
And
right.
that's all that really matters.
Yeah.
And so I think us growing in that,
Absolutely.
has helped
Yeah.
us, get to the place where we're at. And because our heart, and I think I think too, this next season we're probably going to talk more about our personal journeys, like we talked about that, like the fear and anxiety that we went through. Because I know a lot of women go through that. Because I feel like every woman I meet, literally, like
the
it's
more
the
you talk
same
about
story.
it, the more it's
it's the same story, and you know it's it can be debilitating, and so we really want to dive into that too, and just talk about some personal things there, and
and just I've just had so much fun though, like speaking on things that are challenging sometimes. But it just also goes to show you like how amazing the Holy Spirit is, because not one of our episodes, I think we had one where we knew what we wanted to talk about that day. But the rest have literally just been like ad-libbed, like just, and I'm sure that's how podcasts go most of the time, but.
Well, we had talked, I think we were going to try to structure it a little more, and that's never that one, like we were going to do like a little series.
Yeah, like a series.
And then it didn't really work
But
out.
it's, let's not just go against the current, like this is how we flow, and this is like what works, and it's just so funny how everything seems to always come together when we're just open and willing and obedient and soft and pliable to just let the Lord say what he wants to say. And there's been times where I felt like, I don't know, are we even really like reaching people or getting across? But then I'll have somebody come up to me and be like, this really ministered. I heard somebody talking about it, and I'm like, that just blows my mind, because we're just two moms sitting in a basement and just sharing our hearts and love for Jesus.
To me last week, I can't remember who it was that said that, but they were just like, I watched such and such. It was like, it wasn't like a recent episode, like one of the first ones. And she was just like, I'm working. Oh, I remember who it was now. But she's like, I'm working my way through them, and she was just like, she was just so touched by some of the stuff that the Spirit like brought to light to her, through us speaking. And that's it though. It's like, it's not us.
No.
It's completely him, working through us. And so I think staying in that place of humility and like realizing like, it's not humility to sit there and say, oh, I'm just not worthy.
Which we did.
It's humility to say, okay, Lord, even though I'm not 100% sure like what this is going to look like or where this is going to lead or how I'm going to sound on a microphone
or whether our sound is good or not.
Whether our sound is good or not. We're just trusting you. We're just going with it. And I just feel like, I mean, this all kind of wraps up in that verse that we just talked about. Like, our desire is turning out good. Like it's only good. Like I don't feel like I've had, it hasn't been forced.
No.
And it's like, again, that proverb that talks about like the riches of a righteous man, it doesn't bring sorrow. And there's been no sorrow. It's just all just been great, and we're really excited about our new guests coming up this season. And
I think we want to have more of that too.
We'll have more of that. Because I know we were planning on doing at least one a month, and that didn't really pan out this first season. But this year, this season, at least that. At least that. And we've got some really fun ones that they have approached us, that approached you. And they want to be on it. So that's exciting that we're getting attention, not attention, but people are just,
people care enough to want to come on, even though we're like, in my basement.
And God's bringing them in. He knows who's going to be watching this, and he knows what people need to hear.
That's the thing.
It's exciting.
That is cool. I was going to say something else, and now I don't remember what I was going to say.
Sorry, I was rambling.
No, you're totally fine. I can't remember. It's okay though. But so we're going to have change of set.
Yes.
We got, hopefully these mics are working out pretty good. What else? I know what I was going to say. So I just feel like maybe since we're opening comments, like if there's anything that you want to see, that you guys are interested in, or things that you see for us, like the Holy Spirit may be speaking to you to speak to us about certain things, about maybe something, maybe we can do like a Q&A night or go live here and there. So like what times are best for you guys for us to go live?
Yeah, that's one thing we're talking about possibly trying to do.
Because I think that would be really fun. or just anything. Like, we're gonna open up the comments, so just give us your thoughts
Yeah.
and what you want to see, and maybe areas that you need, like us to dig into in our
Yeah.
quiet time, and
We would
see if
love
the
to
Lord.
hear
Oh
what y'all
yeah,
want to hear about, because that helps us and guides us, with, just, not that we're, like we said, we kind of free flow a lot, but,
Yeah.
we can address certain things.
100%.
And, if you need clarity on some stuff, or, it may even help us be more clear.
Yeah.
I mean, we may think we're being clear about something and we're not.
Right.
So,
for sure, because
Yeah.
we think similarly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Cool.
well, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. So
Okay.
thank you guys for being here for season 1 and bearing down and
Yeah.
listening and
Even through all the sound, things, and through all the, mishaps
Yeah.
we might have had, or
For
did have, not
sure.
might have.
yeah,
It's been fun.
it has been
And
fun.
we're just excited to go into season 2 with guns blazing.
But we would really appreciate if you have followed along for this 31 minutes, for you to just subscribe.
Yes.
That feels
Hit the
like
bell.
and subscribe,
Yes.
y'all, to our channel, and share us, because we know that God wants to do things, and He definitely led us to do this. And in our obedience, we know that it also takes people kind of linking arms and joining together with us, because it's not about us and we can't do it alone.
Right. Yeah.
So, yep,
Yeah.
it's been good.
Yeah.
We're going to come back next week with the first episode of season 2 and a new set. So
Yeah.
stay tuned.
So excited.
And I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.